All right, guys, by this time, you should have a draft of your literature review. Some of you may be feeling more confident than others about it. That's okay. If you are still not quite sure what's going on, that is okay because we have time to straighten that out. And that's part of what we're going to be, well, basically all of what we're going to be doing this week. So let's get started looking at what's coming up this week. Um, Obviously, you're watching this video now. I tell you that every week. You're probably tired of it. Sorry, creature of habit here. Um, and then there will be a separate video on the writing workshop just so that I can keep these videos shorter for those of you who are trying to watch them at like little snippets of time here and there. So, one thing you need to know about this week before we start looking at the individual pieces of the week is that I've made a couple of slight changes to the schedule, and they are changes in your favor. Um, so if we tried to do everything that I had originally thought we could accomplish this week, probably everyone's head would have exploded, um, and it would have been really sad for everyone. And I don't want that. I mean, I know this is a challenging enough class for most people, um, with the amount of reading and the writing that you're doing, the researching that you're doing. So if I can kind of lighten the load a little bit here or there, I will do my best to do that. So what's happening this week is that originally you were going to have your revised literature review turned in by Monday, the 28th at 11 a.m. But if we tried to do that, it would just be too much. We couldn't do the writing workshops the way I would like to do them in a way that will ideally ultimately benefit you. So I have shifted things a little bit, and it's the workshop that has to be completed by Monday, the 28th at 11 a.m. You will have through Thursday, July 1st at 11 a.m. to do the revisions on your draft before you submit the draft for or the for grading, for actual grading. That also means that your language arts lab assignment, you can complete your visit by 11 a.m. on Thursday, July 1st as well. So essentially you're getting about 4 extra days, so like a half a week extra, which at that point you will have done your writing workshops. You'll have been able to look at the feedback, the questions and suggestions and comments that you receive from your writing group, and the comments that you'll get from me on your drafts. And you will have done a couple of other sort of restructuring activities that will possibly help with your revisions. Ideally, they'll help with your revisions so that the revision process itself most likely will not be incredibly overwhelming and you'll be able to get that done by the deadline on the Thursday. So if you have any questions or concerns about that, please let me know. But ideally, this is going to help you out. And, that's going to help me out too, because you're going to be turning in papers that you've had a chance to more thoughtfully and intentionally revise. Okay, so the habit this week is organizing. And I know some of you are like, why didn't we do organizing before we started writing? Well, there are reasons, and I think that they will become clear as you read the introductory essay for organizing and as you read the two essays that I'm going to have you read from this chapter. So, ideally, you're going to see the benefits of flexibility and how that can help you develop more control over your writing. Um, so let's look at the reading assignment. So the reading assignments, first of all, are out of order from the way they're presented in the book. So I'm having you sort of skip to page 204 for on revising and read that essay that goes through different sort of approaches to revising work. Um, we've it's helpfully divided into some nice little sections on restructuring, which you'll be working on in your next reading assignment, rethinking, letting go, and taking a break. So the rethinking and the letting go are going to come as you review the feedback that you get from the writing group and from me on your drafts. And then the taking a break is something that you're going to sort of be doing um, after, and this is going to sound really crazy, but after you submit this draft for grading, you're going to have a break from it for a little bit while I grade it. And then before you submit your argument, you're going to have a chance to revise this literature review again to include with your argument. So you'll have a little break there while you're working on your argument. You'll go back to your literature review to complete the argument project. Okay, and so you're going to do the practice session 1, getting feedback. Basically, that is about you creating a cover letter in which you share with your readers, which your writing group members, the question or problem you're trying to address, the ideas or points you feel you've made most successfully, what you need most help with, what your concerns are, and any questions you have about how or where to start your revisions, and then anything else you would want to include in the cover letter. And you're going to share that with your draft with your writing groups. I'm going to explain the writing group thing in a separate video, so don't worry about that right now. Okay. So those are your first assignments this week, and you need to have that done by Thursday. After 11 a.m. on Thursday, you will be completing the writing group work. You will also do reading assignment number 2, and that is to oh, I have to switch this around because I originally had this as 1 and then realized that wasn't going to work. Okay, so I'll switch this information, but you're going to read on structure on pages 197 through 200. And then you have a 2-part practice session that you're going to do where you're working on structure. This is asking you to take photos. And it's asking you to use index cards. If you don't have index cards, note cards, don't worry about that. Scraps of paper will work. I often will just cut up pieces of paper into, you know, uh, roughly 3x5 size or close to that, and use that. And or sticky notes would work. If you have a bunch of post-it notes, you could use those. So it doesn't have to be index cards, but the idea, and if you wanted to do that, sorry, I interrupted myself, but if you wanted to do this electronically, you can go into Google and go on Jamboard. Let me go ahead and show you how to do that real quick. Let me go here. If you go into your Google and you come to this new plus, and you see down here, docs, sheets, slides, forms, more. And when you drop down this menu for more, you can come down. You could use drawings if you wanted to, but you could come down to Jamboard and open up Jamboard. And what you end up having is you have this frame, this board frame here, and you can have a background for it. I often like this one. I find it easier to see than that white against this white here. And then you have lots of different things. You have a pen, so you could just like write on here. You have an eraser to erase anything you want. The sticky note is what I find potentially the most useful for you on this, but you also have a text box if you wanted to type. Then you can add photos and you can um, add shapes. And this is just a pointer if you were presenting, which you're not, but that's okay. So the sticky notes are great because you have color options here. So you could, because you were supposed to find patterns in your sources and choose like the way you wanted to organize by those key ideas in your literature review. You could assign a color to each idea, whatever. But you can type whatever you want on here. So idea one, idea one, this is just, I mean, I would type more on here about my whatever idea one is and what I have there according to the assignment instructions. I just kind of go with that. Um, and then when you hit save, you have a sticky note, and it all automatically sets you up to keep doing sticky notes. And then these sticky notes, you can drag them wherever you want on the screen. You can make them bigger, you can make them smaller. You can edit them, you can copy them, you can delete them. If you have more than one, you could order them. So you could have like a stack of them if you wanted to. You want them sideways, you can turn them however you want on here. Okay, so you have some options of things you can do with this to kind of set it up. And you run out of space on one board, you just click that little arrow and here you go with a new one. The first one's still there, and there's the new one, and you can go, I don't know how many you can go on here. I've had up to 12 before, I believe. So you can have lots and lots of boards, and you can set a different background for each one. And if you put stuff on there and you realize that wasn't the way you wanted it, you can clear the frame. So if I decide, okay, I don't really want that, I clear the frame. It'll take care of everything at once. And then you can save it, and then you have share options just like you do with any other Google product that you have. Right. So that is one option for doing this. Sorry, for doing this practice session, this structure after the fact practice session. And then the part two builds off of what you've done in part one, and you are supposed to kind of rearrange what you have in two other ways and figure out which way might work best and go with that. Um, each of these asks you to sort of write up a report. I'm not looking for an essay about this. I'm looking for like, as I went through and did part one playing with or part one structure after the fact, I realized that some of my sources were in odd places or something like that. And so I realized I should probably move them around. Or I realized that the order that I had my information presented in is maybe not the best order. It might be stronger to move my middle section and make that first. For whatever reason. So just little things, and you can bullet point that. It doesn't have to be a long written out thing. And then the other one, playing with alternatives, again, it's asking you for a report that compares your organizational possibilities. Again, you can do a chart, you can do bullet points. You don't have to do a full-blown essay for this. You've got enough other things to do. So that is what you're working on for the second part of the week. Although, if you can get that done by Thursday, that might be a good idea because then you can focus solely on the workshop after that. And so, the writing workshop, you're going to be working on from 11 a.m. Thursday through 11 a.m. Monday. And those are going to take place via email groups that I'll be creating. I have kind of sorted people out into groups of, well, they're small groups. You won't have more than 3 people in a group. but we have an odd number of people, so it's not every group's going to have the same number, but there will be no more than 3 people in your group, so 2 or 3 people. Um, and so you, at most, you'll be reviewing 2 other people's essays. Um, you'll be using the email groups that I create for you, and when you do anything you post on there, you'll want to post reply all. If you leave me out of those groups, like you don't reply all and I don't get to see what you're doing, then I can't give you credit for the writing workshop. So make sure that you are choosing reply all. The other thing is if your group decides that it would be easier to do this via Google Docs and using the commenting features, that's fine with me. Again, just make sure that you share those with me as well so that I can give you credit for the workshop. I'm not going to be policing what you're writing. Um, I'm just going to be checking to make sure that you are participating in the workshop and that um, people are going to benefit from the workshop itself. Incidentally, in um, the professional development, the writing project that I was doing this past week, one study or one project that was shared was based on research into writing groups and how they work. And one of the things that this particular project showed was that students, writers, not just students, but writers in general, tend to benefit more from giving feedback than receiving feedback. So just the process of going through and commenting on someone else's work makes a big impact on our own work as writers. So keep that in mind. Right. Again, the language arts lab assignment, you need to do that at least once. Remember, if you go to the lab or visit the lab via Zoom more than once, you could earn some extra credit if your work reflects that amount of effort. And then that is due again by Thursday, July 1st. So you have a few extra days for that as well. So the getting feedback and literature review drafts are due by 11 a.m. Thursday in your writing groups. Structure after the fact and playing with alternatives are due on Blackboard by next week, Monday, the 11th, or not the 11th, the 28th at 11 a.m. I encourage you to try to get those done early so that you can focus on the writing workshop without having to do these things. But I understand that some of you just may not be able to, and that's okay as well. Also due Monday by 11 a.m. is your writing workshop responses, or anything you're doing in the writing workshop group should be done by 11 a.m. Monday the 28th. That's when I'll be going and checking what you have and giving credit for participation in the groups. And then your language arts lab visit by July 1st. So that is what you have going on this week. If you have any questions or concerns or anything, you need help with anything, please let me know. This week I am home. Next week I will be back at the Writing Project Summer Institute again. So I won't be as available, but this week I will be home. I will be around. I only have a couple of other things scheduled besides my regular private teaching that I do. So I'm around if you need help, if you need to talk about anything, please let me know.